Rhea had circled the weekend on her calendar for months. It wasn't just a visit. It was a reunion she had waited for with a heart full of longing. Kabir, her long-distance boyfriend, had promised to spend the weekend at her countryside cottage. She had taken leave from work, cleaned the entire place with obsessive care, stocked his favorite snacks, and even bought new scented candles he once said reminded him of their first date. Everything was set. The dinner was simmering, soft jazz filled the room, and her phone buzzed. On the way. Can't wait. Her heart fluttered. Just as the sun dipped behind the trees, a knock echoed through the wooden cottage. Smiling, she rushed to the door, only to find a stranger standing there. Well, not exactly a stranger. She'd seen him once in a photo Kabir showed her. He introduced himself casually. "Hey, I'm Ayan, Kabir's cousin. He said I could crash here tonight." Rhea blinked. That wasn't part of the plan. She faked a polite smile, a dozen questions flashing through her head. Why would Kabir invite someone else during their special weekend? She stepped aside, letting Ayan in. He was carrying a small backpack and wore a charming grin that made it hard to express her confusion outright. "I thought it was just going to be me and Kabir," she finally said, offering him a glass of water. "Yeah, me too. But he texted me earlier, asked if I could drop by since I was passing through." Ayan replied, shrugging. Said he'd be a little late anyway. Kabir hadn't mentioned any of this. Still, she decided not to make a scene. Maybe it was just a temporary hiccup. Maybe Kabir would explain everything once he arrived. Ayan made himself comfortable, complimenting the cottage's decor. He noticed the effort she had put in. "Looks like you really care about him," he remarked. Rhea nodded, her eyes darting to the clock. Hours passed, and Kabir still hadn't arrived. A message finally came. "Running late. Might not make it tonight. So sorry, love you." The air deflated from her lungs. Her heart sank. She glanced at Ayan, who seemed to sense the disappointment on her face. "Rough day?" he asked gently. Rhea forced a smile, brushing her hair back.
"Yeah.
"Just not what I expected." "Well, maybe I can help take your mind off things," he offered. She didn't know whether to laugh or roll her eyes. But she nodded anyway. Maybe company wasn't such a bad thing for now. Rhea woke up hoping Kabir had changed his mind and would arrive that morning, but her phone held no new messages. The silence was louder than Ayan's cheerful good morning from the kitchen. He'd cooked eggs and made coffee like it was his place. She appreciated the gesture, though it felt strangely intimate for someone she barely knew. Throughout the day, Ayan kept her company. They talked about everything: travel, movies, childhood stories. He told her how Kabir used to be quiet and withdrawn as a teen, how he'd always been hard to read. Rhea nodded, realizing she didn't know as much about Kabir as she thought. Ayan's stories filled in blanks she hadn't even noticed before. He was easy to talk to, quick-witted, and emotionally aware in a way Kabir had never been. By afternoon, Kabir finally texted, "Can't make it today. I feel terrible. Something urgent at work. Let's talk tomorrow." Rhea stared at the message, fingers trembling slightly. 2 nights in a row, cancelled. She didn't reply right away. Her thoughts swirled between disappointment and suspicion. Ayan noticed. "He's not coming?" he asked softly. Rhea nodded, sighing. Again. "You okay?"
No.
"But I will be." Ayan gave her space, but his presence was oddly comforting. He didn't push, didn't pry. Instead, he sat beside her on the porch as the sun went down, both sipping tea, both silent. She found herself relaxing. He made her laugh without trying. He noticed when she was cold and handed her a blanket without asking. Small things. Thoughtful things. That night, the power briefly went out during a storm. They lit candles and sat in the living room talking in low voices. It felt surreal. Ayan played a tune on his phone and air pianoed to it, pretending to be a concert pianist. Rhea laughed, genuinely laughed for the first time in days. She told him things she hadn't shared with Kabir. How lonely it felt being in a long-distance relationship. How she often felt like she was the only one trying. Ayan listened intently, nodding, not judging. "I don't mean to pry," he said carefully, But do you ever feel like he's more in love with the idea of you than the reality of being with you? The question stung, but it was one she'd silently asked herself many times. Her lips parted, but she said nothing, just looked at him. "I'm sorry," he added quickly. "That was out of line." "No," she whispered. "It wasn't." The conversation lingered in the air like perfume. Emotional intimacy, unspoken but thick, wrapped itself around them. She realized she wasn't just talking to someone who listened, she was being understood. And that was a dangerous feeling. Rhea couldn't sleep. The weight of the weekend pressed against her chest, heavy and confusing. She kept replaying Ayan's words in her head. Maybe it was the storm outside, or the emotional mess inside, but she found herself wide awake long past midnight. She stepped into the living room and found Ayan there too, reading something on his phone. Their eyes met, and neither needed to explain why they were both up. "I was thinking," he said softly, "maybe this wasn't such a coincidence." She raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe I was supposed to be here. Maybe Kabir's absence gave us the space to see something we wouldn't have otherwise." His words caught her off guard. Her first instinct was to dismiss it, but she didn't. Because somewhere deep down, part of her had already felt that shift. It wasn't just loneliness. There was something about Ayan, his presence, his sensitivity, that had quietly filled the spaces Kabir left empty. They talked some more, softer now, more personal. Rhea admitted how tired she was of waiting, of hoping Kabir would prioritize her. That their relationship had turned into scheduled video calls and missed weekends. Ayan didn't offer solutions. He just listened, truly listened in a way she craved. Then there was silence. Not awkward, but loaded. He looked at her, not with pity, but with an unspoken understanding. She felt something stir, something she didn't expect. When he reached out and gently touched her hand, she didn't pull away. Her heart raced. She hated how right it felt. He leaned in slowly, not forcefully, giving her time to stop it. For a moment, she didn't. Their faces were inches apart. She closed her eyes, and then snapped them open. "I can't," she said, voice trembling. "This isn't me." He pulled back immediately, respecting the boundary. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I shouldn't have." Rhea stood, confused and ashamed. She didn't want to be this person. But she also couldn't ignore what the moment revealed, how distant she had become from Kabir and how easy it had been to find comfort in someone else. The next morning was strained. They barely spoke. Rhea avoided eye contact, still processing everything. Then, without warning, Kabir arrived. He walked in casually, suitcase in hand, but his expression shifted the moment he saw the room, saw the tension. Ayan stood up, startled, and Rhea's heart dropped. She didn't know what he saw, but it was enough. Kabir didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just said, "I'll take the guest room." That hurt more than any argument. Rhea didn't sleep that night either. Choices, even the ones you don't act on, have consequences. And silence sometimes speaks louder than betrayal ever could. The silence between them the next morning was unbearable. Kabir didn't ask any questions, and Rhea didn't offer any answers. Ayan had already left before they woke up, leaving only a brief note. "Thanks for the hospitality. Hope things work out." Kabir saw it, read it, and set it aside without a word. His indifference stung more than if he had shouted. Over breakfast, Rhea tried to act normal. She asked about his work, the missed weekend, the reason for the sudden change in schedule. He responded with clipped phrases, never meeting her eyes. She could sense the wall he had put up, tall and cold. Every effort to reach across it failed. By afternoon, Kabir announced he was heading back early. "I've got meetings tomorrow," he said flatly. No goodbye kiss. No expression of regret. Just distance. Rhea watched him leave, torn between guilt and anger. She wanted to explain that nothing happened, that she stopped it, that her loyalty wasn't broken. But she also knew the truth wasn't just about actions, it was about intent. And her heart hadn't been innocent. Days passed with no contact from Kabir. Rhea finally gathered the courage to message him. No reply. A week later, she received a message. Not from Kabir, but from Ayan. The name alone sent her pulse racing. She opened it, expecting an apology, maybe closure. What she got was something else entirely. You deserve to know the truth. I'm not Kabir's cousin. He hired me to visit you, to test you. He thought you were drifting. Said if you let another man close, he'd have his answer. I went along with it, but I didn't expect to actually care.
I'm sorry.
Truly. The words shattered her. Her breath caught in her throat as the betrayal unfolded in her mind. Kabir didn't trust her. He manipulated the entire weekend, staged her loneliness, and set her up to fail. Ayan had played his part, until the emotions got real. The ache in Rhea's chest wasn't just from betrayal. It was humiliation, heartbreak, and disbelief tangled together. She paced the room, phone still in hand. 1,000 questions burned inside her. Was anything real? Did Kabir ever love her? Was Ayan sorry, or just playing his role to the end? The worst part was she had opened her heart, been vulnerable, and both men had used it as a game. In the following days, Rhea cut off contact with both of them. No closure. No answers. Just silence.
But she learned something.
Trust can't be tested like a science experiment. Love isn't proven through traps. And the moment someone feels the need to test your loyalty, the relationship is already broken. She returned to her life, slower but stronger. She no longer waited for texts that never came. She no longer questioned her worth based on someone else's suspicions. The weekend that was supposed to bring her closer to love had instead shown her the painful cost of misplaced trust. And in the ruins of it all, she found something unexpected: herself.